Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
With Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, the professional wrestling. Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
Hello and welcome to a special Monday edition of McGuire on Wrestling. That means nothing to you if you're listening to the show on the radio, as we usually air every Monday, but usually this show posts as a podcast on Sundays the day before at celebrateWrestling.com. However, this week, couple tradition breaks. First of all, normally I take my birthday off. Today, Monday, April 7th, is my birthday, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look at me, happy birthday. I'm saying it because I usually give myself this show off. I give you a best of or something like that because, frankly, it's my birthday. I feel I've earned it. But we had a big wrestling weekend this weekend with AEW's Dynasty. WrestleMania is just a couple weeks away now. There's lots going on there. There's lots to talk about. So I am not officially calling this episode 100, even though if you go in the lineage of things, it kind of is. Because realistically, last week was 99, and I've been pushing it off. But you're going to find out why episode 100 is going to be so special, because it will post this Sunday as a podcast at celebrateWrestling.com or wherever you get your podcasts. But it's going to be something a little different. A little different. Somebody I've been waiting to get on this show for a long time. A long time. It's finally going to be here, and I'm very excited for it. I'm still a little under the weather, a little better than I have been, though. This has been going on for 2 months now, this respiratory thing, so I apologize, but we think we finally got it cased. We got it narrowed down. There may have been a hospital stay involved. I don't want to get too much into it, but I know the guys over at the Legends and Champions show, Andy and Stefan, and even the alternate commentary table guys were very nice in sending shout-outs and get well soons and taking care of me. And I didn't want anybody to panic thinking that things were worse than they are, but they did get a little hairy in the past week. So I figured, take the Sunday off, watch the pay-per-view. I talked to Dave Meltzer. I said, Dave, you want to do a Monday show instead? He's like, I'm all for it. So here we are on the day after AEW's Dynasty, and what a show it was. What a show it was. We're going to do Yay Boo coming up in just a bit. This is basically a full episode minus a couple things, okay? For example, we're not going to do the 5 count today because, frankly, by the time I do it, 20 things are going to change and Monday Night Raw is about to air, so if there's anything crazy that comes out of it, we'll let you know. We are going to talk about the Kevin Owens injury, though. This is devastating news for Kevin Owens. We're hoping for the absolute best for him, one of my favorite wrestlers. I think he's a lot of yours as well. There's no denying how good the guy is, how talented he is, and most importantly, what the implications are for his career and his life. I mean, you never want to hear about any wrestler having anything take them out of action. And this is a case where, I don't know. I don't know if him and I would ever get along as people. I've never met the guy, but he seems like the type of person that I would gravitate towards too. Then again, so does CM Punk, and they reportedly don't like each other. So I don't know. But the bottom line is, we wish the very best for him, and we'll talk more about that with Dave Meltzer coming up in just a bit. Some of your feedback as well at the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page is coming, and you might have heard Mitch and Dimitri talk about it. The shirts are happening. Now, they said they were already up for pre-order. They're just about there. I want to get them up right away here before WrestleMania, but there's going to be 2 shirts. There's going to be one that's the return of the GWO shirt for Mitch and Dimitri in the Greek World Order. Even if you're not Greek, you can wear this thing. But I'll tell you, if a Greek sees you wearing it, you're adopted immediately. Because I wear mine, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, look at that shirt. And then the other is going to be something I've contemplated on for a long time. It's going to be a very subtle Celebrate Wrestling shirt. I'm calling it the Lowest Special, which is my mom's favorite colors. It's blue on blue, and it's something that I think it looks pretty cool. So it's going to be a darker vector of the Celebrate Wrestling logo on a slightly lighter shirt. It's a really dope looking shirt, and a place called So Normal here in Lethbridge, Alberta, printing them. So they're going to be Canadian made, Canadian printed, and Canadian exported, which I don't know what that means for those of you in the States that want to order, but I will say this, I am willing to mail them with the word gift on the label, so I don't know if that makes a difference or not anymore, but we'll see what happens there. Either way, keep posted on the Celebrate Wrestling social media channels. We'll have details on when you can order these shirts, and the prices are going to be the best I can possibly do for you, because these have never been about making money. It's just about spreading the word and having some good fun with pro wrestling. And this time, hopefully not losing money on the shirts like we did the first run. So it was, let's just say, putting a little too much faith in drop shipping the first time around. But thank you for those of you that have chosen to support the podcast by listening, by downloading and subscribing. That doesn't cost you anything, and it really is the best way you can support these shows. So without further ado, we're also going interruption free today. We're not doing any commercials, no more plugs, anything like that. We're going to dive right into the content. So without further ado, let's take a look back at AEW Dynasty and more with the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, special Monday edition of the show, and Dave Meltzer, I want to thank you for making the time. I figure this is probably better anyways, because usually when we have a pay-per-view on the Sunday, we're kind of talking about stuff that's about to happen anyways, and now we have a lot more to digest, obviously, from AEW's Dynasty, which took place last night in Philadelphia. As always, I'd like to get your overall thoughts of the show before we dive in. Where does it sit for you as far as a night spent watching wrestling?
It was long. I thought that most of the matches were really good. Some of them were great. I mean, it's typical AEW, a lot of great wrestling matches. Right. As far as, I don't think it touched Revolution, but it's like, that's a super high standard to try to live up to. But overall, most of it was good. I mean, some people didn't like the main event finish for a number of different reasons. I mean, I think a lot of people really wanted Swerve to win. I think that the idea is that the title's going to change hands at All In, not on this show. And there was no way out of that other than pissing people off. And whether that's good or bad, the job of the people running the company is to increase business. And if it doesn't increase business, it was or it hurts business, it was a mistake. And if it doesn't hurt business, then it's fine. And we only know when it goes forward. I mean, like, there's a lot of people who complain, but that happens often when a heel loses the main event. And if you have to have a babyface win every pay-per-view main event, you're going to be mad a lot.
Right.
So I think it's an interesting thing because there's, I've seen this with AEW before. Certain people become favorites of the internet, and Tony has to go by business metrics. And I remember with when MJF was champion, and every time he would retain, people would get mad and he's ruining the company and blah, blah, blah. And the pay-per-view business was very, very strong with MJF. Then it went down when he lost. And people weren't complaining, but that's when it was going down, other than the Sting match, obviously, which did great. But the next champions, were not as successful, but they didn't really get the heat, and maybe because, Swerve was a babyface and things like that. Then, they put it on Moxley after Danielson. And, people haven't liked it because he's been winning his matches with lots and lots of interference. And it has been a lot. And it is the same thing. And it does get old.
It's the new bloodline. It's exactly the same.
It's the bloodline. But the bloodline ended up being super successful, which isn't to say that when you copy something successful so soon after, it often is, you don't get the same results. But I mean, this isn't meant to be the bloodline. It was meant to be putting a lot of heat on Moxley to build to someone who I presume is Will Ospreay, to be the guy. And Will Ospreay probably is the guy to be the guy. But it's just people get impatient. And I've seen that with heel champions. I've seen that many, many times where the direction and everything, but people just can't wait the 3-4 months to get there. And they just get mad every time the heel wins. And I guess in some ways, in theory, it's good that people are so mad because it shows they care. But, if business goes down, I don't care how mad they are. If the idea is to get them mad, if business goes down, then it didn't work. So we kind of have to wait and see.
If the plan is, and using the AEW fan base as being the more insider type of fan usually, if the plan is in your mind to have the title change it all in, which makes sense to me as well, wouldn't there be more value at this point in holding off on having any other world title matches at pay-per-view?
I don't see them being able to draw well on pay-per-view without a world title match.
You don't think so? I mean, they got enough guys and enough belts.
Yeah, but the belts don't really. The world title's the one that carries the show. So I don't see on a $50 show people will skip it if there's no world title match. I mean, unless you have something so spectacular, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But they didn't on this show. You know, the three-way was not that thing. The three-way was nice and it was great, but it was not that thing that was so unbelievable that there's, you know, you're going to buy it for that. You know, like the Sting retirement, you could have done that, but you didn't have that. You don't have a Sting retirement. So I think to sell the pay-per-view, you needed it, and that was what they did. You know, and WWE would do the same thing. You know, it's like until Roman cut his schedule down. But before that, when Roman was doing every show, I mean, it was like they would have the world title on every show, and Roman would be beating people, and people would be getting furious, and that was the way it went for years. And this isn't going for years.
And
but,
maybe the price structure makes the difference as well, too, because AEW does need to charge that full pay-per-view fee, whereas WWE's PLEs now are basically part and parcel with your subscription, right? So you can get away with not having a Roman Reigns as champion or whoever your world champion is. There's been quite a few PLEs now without world championship matches for the men. So
right. But now it's not. You're not spending $50 on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
that's fair. I get that. I just wonder if. And it's too bad. I mean, I see what you're saying. There might not be the same perceived value in a show without the world championship. But I mean, if you just know you're going to be getting the screwball finish anyways until all in.
You didn't know. I mean, I think there's
I think we knew, Dave.
Well, no, most people the day of the show were coming to me going, "Oh yeah, it's going to be a title change." And I didn't think so. But most people were thinking it was going to be a title change because they just felt that they hated Moxley so much as champion, so therefore they're going to get rid of this terrible angle, so to speak. Terrible, I say in quotes, because the reality is the last pay-per-view did well. I don't know how this one did, but you know, I mean, their business was on an upswing to a degree. I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's like it is getting better, but it's not so much better. Well, you know, I mean, it's. I guess I could say it's so much better because of Max, but it's just a weird thing because it's hard to tangibly compare because so much is different now since January, since they went on Max from a rating standpoint. And then as far as the live attendance, I mean, it's up, but it's still not, you know, what I would call good. So it's like, I hate to say like, oh, look, you know, like, you know, you're not, you know, there's still shows last week even, you know, where they're doing TVs under 3,000 people in buildings that would hold more than that. So that tells me you're not where you need to be, but it is better. I think that there has been more heat at the matches. I think that they're on an upswing. I think most things point to that, but it's not so much of an upswing that I could say, oh my God, they've turned it around, you know, because it's not that much.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer, a special Monday edition of McGuire on Wrestling post AEW Dynasty. The first thing you said when I asked you about this show is something that I'm hearing, especially from a lot of people that were watching on the East Coast of North America and other time zones. Maybe not as bad for those of you on the West Coast, but you did say it was a long show. Clocked in at about 4 hours, 20 minutes from start to finish here for the main show. On top of that, you add the 0 hour. With these monthly pay-per-views, is this something that AEW needs to reconsider? I mean, I know Tony's theory has been, you know, let's do it like a UFC show where you can come in at any point and watch this or that. But most wrestling fans tend to watch a pay-per-view start to finish. And asking 4.5 hours of anybody is an awful lot, especially on a Sunday night, isn't it?
Yes, I think unless it's like your big show of the year, like All In, I think that you should be able to get it done in 4 hours. So, yeah, it was interesting because I kind of sensed it was going long when they didn't do anything on the pre-show. You know, the pre-show, they did one match, and then they talked forever. And then they did the Max Caster thing, which is the quickie, which was fine. But it was like all that talking on the pre-show. And I thought like, oh, my God, I think he's going to go really long on the pay-per-view, which I don't think was a good idea. I think that it was I think 9 matches is better than 10. I think it went one match too long, and I think a couple of the matches went too long as well. But it wasn't like this was a show that you couldn't fit into the window. They just went really long with matches that didn't necessarily need to have to go that long. And I mean, I think it would have been a better show shorter. But yeah, that's what I said. Better show, shorter. If it ended at the top of the hour, you'll still have people complain because they do every month about how it's too long. But I think we know for an AEW pay-per-view, it's got to go at least 3:45 or people are going to feel like it wasn't enough. But 4+, maybe one show a year. And this wasn't the one, you know what I mean? Like this wasn't the big super spectacular where you needed to go this long.
Yeah, you definitely didn't have any marquee happenings as far. I mean, sure, Adam Cole gets the title change. You had some. Actually, somebody commented on our Facebook group for Celebrate Wrestling that the Owen Hart matches should have been saved for TV. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think that you didn't need 3 of them. I think that it would have been nice to have 2. You could have, but I think that it was good to kick the tournament off. And also, Will Ospreay didn't have anyone. And I think that in this stage of the game, one of the keys to the AEW pay-per-view is the Will Ospreay match because it always blows people away. So I would say that one. In hindsight, I could say, yeah, you could have left the Mercedes match off because I don't think it was all that good. But, Mercedes is also a big star. Fletcher and Briscoe, I didn't expect on the show. It was a late ad. I thought that was going to be for TV. I thought that it ended up being perhaps the best match on the whole show.
Really?
I thought that match was fantastic. So I just think that helped the show. So, yeah, I think they could have kept the Mercedes match off, but that's talking in hindsight. I think that one of the matches, and it could have been any one of many, whether it's Adam Cole match or the Jericho, could have been on TV. Sure. They just, he wanted to blow away show. And, sometimes, more isn't always more. Sometimes less is more. And, yeah, I think I think it's a valid criticism. I was thinking the same thing as the show got long. I was like, this is a good show, but it doesn't need to be this long.
Yeah, there were a few matches I was texting back and forth with some of our panelists and stuff saying like, and you know what? Kudos to all 3 guys. The trio match was what you expected basically, or the triple threat between Omega, Speedball, and Ricochet. I mean, tons of cool moves, but in my mind, that match probably went on about 10 minutes too long. You kept watching them kill each other.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I thought it was about 22, 23 minutes where it peaked, and I think they went 31. So yeah. I
mean, again, nothing again. And we're not sitting here. I don't mean to bring all this negativity to rag on AEW or the show. It's just this is the feedback I'm getting. So maybe this gets to ears that can hear it and say, you know what? Maybe we do tighten things up a little bit for the next one here because this is the biggest complaint fans seem to have is the amount of time they spend watching these shows. Now,
the one thing I would say, okay, I would say is that if you were booking and you have in your mind for whatever reason a 60-minute main event on a regular show, I think so you're not tipping it off. I do think you can go long on those shows if you have a reason for that super long main event, or go 50 minutes or whatever. You have this idea is if it's the main event.
Sure.
But I don't think necessarily that that 3-way, it was a super match, but could you have done it in 5 minutes less? Yeah. Could you have done it in 8 minutes less? Yeah. And when the show is going past midnight, I think that the mentality should be, do we have to go past midnight? And on this show, the answer was no, you didn't have to.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer, special Monday edition of McGuire on Wrestling here on the radio and online, airing on the same day today. Now, sticking with Dynasty here, I have to go to the Bandito Jericho match. Is Bandito's mother now the most influential mother since Judy Bagwell in pro wrestling?
I think that's probably it for her, but yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, I thought that whole Bandito thing was cute. I think it needed more TV. And some of the problems is that there was a lot of problems with that match and getting it together with negotiations that went on late that finally were finalized on Thursday night or Thursday late afternoon, which is why they couldn't even announce the match on Wednesday's TV. Was this like negotiations between
AEW and Mexico, or was it
Bandito's agent and AEW? And I don't even know what the details were, but I know that for the last 2 weeks, like they had already tipped their hat that was the direction they were going, and then something happened, and I'm not exactly sure what. And Tony Khan rectified it, but he rectified it after television. So therefore, the hype that you could have done for this, they didn't do because they didn't know if the match he was going to do the match,
right?
But he didn't know if he was going to be able to do it on Sunday or not. And so therefore, a lot of the stuff, they did tape segments, they did put the segments on, but I think that they could have done more with the mask. But the people kind of knew. I mean, I think everybody was stunned when Jericho got the 3 count. I mean, that I was
right.
Like, wait a minute, is that what the negotiations were? And it's like, no, but it was a different thing. They wanted you to think that he was actually going to get unmasked. In that sense, it was funny because I think some people were probably, I don't think anyone thought he was going to lose his mask, but then when he lost the match, I think people were like, oh my God, we're going to see something historic. And then it was kind of taken away, but you did get a babyface win and a championship change. So I guess that's okay. It's interesting though, because Jericho was made champion of Ring of Honor to help them get a TV deal, which did not happen. Does that mean that they've given up on that? Because that's a really interesting thing, as far as like, unless he's in the picture and he's going to win it back.
Well, I thought that's why he was given the title last time. Because this is the second time they've put the ROH title on him now.
The first time was to elevate ROH. This time was to try to finalize a TV deal.
Try and get the deal, yeah.
Which, as far as I can tell, there's no deal finalized. I mean, I've heard no rumors, and usually you hear rumors about stuff like this before the announcement's made.
I did hear you on the Tony Khan pre-show call ask about new international TV deals and prospects for things like that. I had questions about the Owen tournament that I didn't get a chance to get in, but nevertheless, it was very interesting to see Tony's response to what they're trying to do with TV here. I did want to touch on this with you. Do you think that moving the Owen out of Calgary hurts it at all?
No, but I would like to have seen at least a show in Calgary, just for the, I think it's expensive going to Canada and the dollar's different and all that.
Oh, right now, especially, it's terrible. Like it's a guessing game.
Yeah, but I do think that from a tradition standpoint, I would want to, and I think he would too. I think that, whatever, the finals are in Phoenix, but I would like to see either the start or the finish of the tournament, like maybe a show in Calgary where, you have maybe 8 tournament matches on the show or the finals like they did last year. I think that would be really cool as a tradition.
Well, I think the biggest problem with it this year, and somebody pointed out that the timing of All In wouldn't allow it to happen during the Stampede.
Yes.
And that's feasible. That's a possible reason as well. But, talking to people who are in the know and people who are in the business, I mean, Calgary has never been the best draw for big time TV. WWE has struggled. AEW has clearly struggled.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's just one of those things where I don't think the money's there right now. I think with the economic uncertainty,
the money's not there right now.
It plays a huge factor in this. So I think those two things we're definitely working against it. So who knows? We might get the Owen back in Calgary here. One last AEW note with you, Dave, before we jump over to WWE here. And this was after watching the pay-per-view last night. I tuned in to the post-show scrum. Do they got to scrap these things? Because this was, I don't know if you watched any of it or not. But
I did.
I watched about 10 minutes of it. And it was the stuff with Tony Storm. And it gets from everything to wing orders to Waffle House orders to just, it seems like whoever's in that room, minus the occasional 1 or 2 people, are just asking the silliest, stupidest questions to get themselves over rather than do anything to benefit the product. Like, do you see any benefit to these things anymore?
If the questions were good, I didn't, it's like when Tony Storm's a gimmick, so everyone else tries to become a gimmick to play into it. I think that's like really kind of weird because you're trying to do a press conference and then the press isn't acting like press. So yeah, that's not good. With Tony, the Thursday was really good. And then the one after the show, though, I didn't really like. There's a bunch of questions that you could ask after the show, like all the stuff we've been talking about. And really, the only one was kind of like this weird question of, well, I think people online are mad. And he's like, yeah, we listen and everything. But it's like you really didn't get. It's the same thing with WWE. It's like there's always all these real questions and nobody ever asks them. Yet on the Thursday one. Like I had 3 questions and all 3 got asked right away before I even got there. So it's like the people who do the Thursday are very serious. Not everyone, but enough of them to where there's always news. And then on this one, yeah, I didn't think there was any news at all because nobody asked news questions. So I don't know if it's scrapping them. I think that it's more maybe the mood that's set by Tony Storm just was like, changes everything because everyone knows that, I mean, yeah, when the first thing with the Tony Storm thing is like, are you going to get your match with Wendy Richter? And it's like, oh God. And then it got worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, I don't know. It just was a giant waste of time for me, but nevertheless. Okay. Well, you know what? That's some thoughts back here. You said earlier that you thought maybe Fletcher and Briscoe was your match of the show. Do you have any others that was your second best then?
Three-way.
Yeah.
Three-way was fantastic. Fletcher was really good. The opener, the opener of the pay-per-view, the Ospreay match was great, but also the AR Fox and Top Flight against Crew and Nick Wayne was really overachieved. That was a hell of a match. But most of the stuff, Megan Main and Tony Storm was really good. I mean, I thought like for the most part, everything was good. There were just, when you have so much talent and you've got people like Will Ospreay and you got people like Kenny Omega, it's just so hard because it's so hard and then Fletcher and Briscoe, it's so hard to follow them. Mm-hmm. And then when you do, it's like someone's going to go in there like, Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia. They just went out there and the crowd, it was late in the show and the crowd just wanted to get to Kenny Omega by that point. They didn't care about Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia. So it was tough for certain people, even Jericho and Bandito, I think, even with a mask at stake, they followed something that was very difficult to follow. So it's hard when you have such great matches and you don't put them on late. Like when Ospreay's in the opener, it's like, I know there's the mentality you want to start up with a hot opener, and they did. But it's like then they went with the Hurt Business, which was actually the right match for second, because it's like the people are going to chant Hurt Business, we hurt people. So you're going to get that reaction. But later in the show, it was there were points where it was pretty tough.
Dave Meltzer is back on a special Monday edition of McGuire on Wrestling. I say that because we are on the radio on Monday, but normally this show will post as a podcast for you early on Sundays. We just finished talking about AEW Dynasty, though, and now we need to jump over to WWE, Dave. One of the biggest stories, a heartbreaker as well, but Kevin Owens now out of action. He's given some details in some interviews now about a neck injury that apparently happened from just a routine sort of move or set of moves, and now they're saying he could be out for an extended amount of time. It's crazy.
Well, it's surgery, so it's going to be, it depends on the nature of the surgery. It could be 6 months, it could be 14 months, depending on the surgery. But it's a ways, I mean, for him to miss Mania, the one thing is it had to be serious because the doctor flagged him for Mania, and I know, obviously, for him, he would want this match really bad. So, he got the doctor, whatever it was, the doctor looked at the situation and just felt he couldn't go. And he needed the surgery.
Now, I'm not trying to drop names here or nothing. I could message Nick Aldis right now, but I know he wouldn't tell me. So I'm wondering if do you think there's any move to put him in a match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania?
I do not know, but when I watched the TV, I got that impression. And when I asked people who would know, they did not deny it to me, which I can't say for sure means it's happening. But normally under these circumstances, if I would say that and those people would just say, no, you're off base. And no one said I was off base. And I asked that question, but it was not confirmed to me either.
Is there anybody you can picture? And I mean, this is a wide open question on the roster, I'm sure, but is there anybody you could see Aldis bringing in to be a proxy for him? Because let's face it, if you move Nick Aldis into that wrestler role, you might have to keep him there. And he's such a great general manager.
It's hard too, because I don't know what the purpose is. And he's kind of I don't think you want a heel authority figure. We had so long.
Right.
I think the authority figures being kind of balanced is a lot better. And also if you do the match, it's you kind of have to do it in 4 minutes and just do an RKO. You know what I mean? Because Randy's too big of a star to sell extendedly for this.
Right.
So I don't like the idea of it. But I mean, as far as a name, I mean, maybe Strowman, just because he's out of the U.S. title picture and he's a big guy. And if Aldis says, okay, you did this, now you got to face Braun Strowman. I can see that. I mean, Jacob Fatu would have been the best one, but he's with LA Knight, so I don't think that one's happening.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you mention, and the funny thing too, I say this as a fan of the guy and obviously knowing his wrestling history, but I guess the other thing to imagine is that a lot of WWE fans don't have a clue about Aldis's wrestling history, so that would probably work against them for a match like that at a Mania as well. You wouldn't have time to build that up, would you?
Got two shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has to be announced next week. Then you got the last show was the night before, and that's already a busy week where people may skip SmackDown because they probably won't. I mean, they'll probably get a big rating, but there's so much going on that week as it is.
Okay, well, let's talk about a name. Maybe this could be a possibility. I don't know, but we've heard rumblings that Rusev Miro has re-signed with WWE. Is this confirmed?
Yes, and it could. I suppose it could be him or Aleister Black. Yeah, Malachi Black, because they both resigned. So I mean, you could bring him in. That could be the way to bring him in. Makes sense.
That could be a way to bring him in, I guess. Do you think they go back to Rusev with him, or do they go Miro?
I think Rusev. Yeah, that's what he's known as in WWE. If he had 5 big years in AEW as Miro and headlined and became a bigger name, you could go with that, but that didn't happen in his case. He's pretty much been off the grid for years.
Did he have 5 months? I mean, he had the TNT title run, but other than that, I mean, I don't remember anything else from other than the very beginning of the video game gimmick.
Yeah.
And that not lasting all that long. And again, I like the guy. I've always liked Rusev. I thought he was fun to watch, but yeah, that was an interesting thing here. Speaking of people who had interesting times in AEW, Saraya, we know, has had her time end here. She has mentioned possibly going back to WWE. How much interest is there? I mean, we've seen a lot with NXT, obviously. I mean, NXT is becoming kind of the resurgence for AEW release talents. But how much more interest do you think there is in AEW talents from WWE and wanting to acquire any more, especially ones who have had their deals expire or end without renewals?
I mean, as far as Saraya goes, I mean, I think the short-term pop is there for anyone.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the key things. So, anyone who's had any notoriety there, especially if they have, I mean, the Hardy thing pretty much tells you. It's like the Hardys, went to AEW, did not even do well in AEW overall, and people in AEW weren't, they were half wanting them gone anyway. And they go to WWE, on NXT, and the place goes crazy for them. And I suspect that they'll be doing some main roster stuff. It makes sense. And they're actually revitalizing TNA. So it's like, if anyone with the idea of we're going, she's back home, it'll work for a short period of time. I don't know long period because I don't know where do you really fit in? They have so many, they have a lot of talented women wrestlers that are, surpassed what Saraya has. But that doesn't mean that they can't bring her back and at first it won't work, because it will.
Sticking with the women of WWE here, a story of sorts has come out about this. I don't know how much of this I buy into and how much of it is us being worked right now, but
it's both. I mean, I know.
You know what I'm talking about here with the Charlotte Flair,
Tiffany and Flair.
thing.
Yeah, and I think in the long run, it's gotten more people talking about it. But yeah, there's a lot of heat on both of them backstage. Charlotte Flair more than Tiffany over things that have happened over the last 2 weeks. Some of it is what's a word? There's people who go, oh, they all went totally off script, and it was like the last 2 lines were not in the script. The other lines were all in the script. So. I mean, Charlotte was whatever it was by the crowd in Chicago, which surprised me. She's a heel. They're booing the hell out of her, and her reaction was kind of weird. I mean, there was a legit backstage heat. I mean, and a lot of it, enough that they edited some of it off of the video. But the people who think that it was all a shoot, most of it wasn't. And it was, the funny part is that it was designed to be a sort of shoot when they brought up like, your biggest problem is with the fans and all that. I mean, that was scripted right into the thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I still feel more of it's work, but I mean, whatever it is.
Most of it is, but it's not. This one's not, because there's certain things that have happened where I could tell you for sure.
I feel they're going for a next level of trying to work the fans, because they know that a lot of fans are on the internet. Everybody's gossiping about it. There's all these weird videos that show up in reels now,
there's people backstage who think that, but not the Kaiser line, because that was just stupid. And I think that even in the company, it was just kind of like, why would you say that? And it was like, especially the way they played it up afterwards. They didn't play it up. Well, we'll see if they turn it into something now. I mean, again, the last two lines, and her, just basically, I'll leave it to you. I think that stuff was where it fell apart. Up until that point, the squeaky voice thing was not planned either, or at least, but everything else was pretty much planned. Yeah.
There you have it. All right, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com, a special Monday edition getting us up to date. Dave, for those that are checking out the Wrestling Observer newsletter, what are some of the latest things they can read about?
Yeah, just the new issue. We catch up on Mania, the build to Dynasty, and just all of the news. The the builds as far as like the New Japan big shows were this week. There's big tournament in Mexico, just all of the, basically, that, I mean, it's mainly, just kind of like getting the WrestleMania stuff down, and what are the matches, how they've changed, different directions that they could go. I think most of it's pretty much locked in, what's planned for each day as far as the top. We wrote it, obviously, we didn't know about Owens, but, Owens was planned. There were plans for Owens like as late as I think Wednesday, because Thursday, I know that they knew on Thursday that he was out, because I started hearing stuff Thursday night, and Friday morning was when it really broke. But so even as late as Wednesday, Owens and Orton was planned to be like one of the key matches on the show.
Well, again, hoping the best for him. And again, Dave Meltzer, you can catch up with all his work and the crew at WrestlingObserver.com and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, appreciate you as always, and thank you so much for being here. And we'll talk to you again real soon, my friend.
Okay.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
It's a commercial-free edition of McGuire on Wrestling today, a special Monday edition after AEW's Dynasty, and my thanks to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer for offering his insight and thoughts on everything going on. Yeah, weird situations going on in WWE. Lots of stuff popping up on the internet these days. And it's even stranger because now, I don't know if you've noticed this, there seem to be a lot of videos that are either produced by people on TikTok or really not that credible of wrestling accounts. And they like to release this, unreleased footage shows, and it's just like a fan camera of somebody like Jade Cargill sitting in position getting ready to enter the ring for her attack on Naomi, for example. I saw this one. I'm like, this isn't really devious dirt stuff, guys. This is somebody that just saw someone waiting in position for a show to happen at a match. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, sometimes I think we as fans can take this stuff a little too seriously. That being said, let's shift entirely to the least serious way you can review a wrestling pay-per-view, and that is with a little segment we call a Yay Boo.
Yay Boo, it's lots of fun to do. If you like it, holla yay. If you don't, you holla boo.
We are talking all about AEW's Dynasty pay-per-view that took place in Philadelphia this past Sunday, April the 6th, and it really was an interesting show. Now, not a ton of feedback from the live viewing of this. I think some people might be catching it later, or maybe just some people didn't watch it because, let's face it, it was kind of a slap-together pay-per-view. It was rushed. We had about a month to get into this thing, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but when you have so much money per month, per year, and WrestleMania season's coming up, maybe you're saving a few bucks. You know what I mean? Nevertheless, the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page did get some great feedback, and we appreciate it as always. Now, normally, my friend Joe Aguinaldo would be here to help us do this as well, but because we're doing it on a Monday, an actual work day, Buddy has a job, apparently, and has to do job things. So he did offer his opinion here, And he starts off with AEW's Dynasty pay-per-view, overall getting a boo. He says there were some really good highlights, like Toni Storm versus Megan Bayne, which was his match of the night, which actually edged out the triple threat with Kenny Speedball and Ricochet. That said, his two critiques about the show. One, too effing long, that's his words. Anything Death Riders is kind of meh, which is problematic when the leader of said faction is the world champ. You're going to hear a lot of complaints about the show being too long today. Dave Meltzer even said at the beginning there, I was saying it last night, I'm like, when you're doing these Sunday night shows, they don't need to be 4.5 hours long, especially for those of you poor suckers on the East Coast. You know, I'm on Mountain Time, and even for me, ending at 10:30 is just too late. Now, granted, I do a morning radio show, so I got to get up earlier anyways, but you get my point. If you have a job where you're actually working for a living, or you got a life, or you got kids, or whatever you got to do, that's a big ask. A big ask to stay up that late. So I don't know if they're going to alter course on the time of these shows here. It's been a constant complaint about AEW shows for a long time. I remember there was the one went like 5 hours or something, and everybody was just like, it has to stop, and they shortened it right up. I think that AEW would probably be wise to get back to that. Because, to quote somebody famous, sometimes more is just more. Okay. Our buddy Dave Drashev, I feel bad about this one too, because he says it's a boo. He says he feels the show was good up until the Bandito Jericho match, which went long and should have been an ROH pay-per-view instead. After 2.5 hours, though, I started losing interest. The Mercedes Julia Hart, Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight, and Fletcher Briscoe matches, all of which were Owen Hart Foundation Cup matches, should have been on the weekly AEW TV shows. This is the comment I was talking about with Dave Meltzer earlier on. You know what? I kind of agree with that. I like the Owen matches being on TV. I don't know why they needed to have 3 in the pay-per-view. Maybe they just felt they had to fill the matches or fill the card. But if we've learned anything with the length of the show, people aren't looking for 10 matches in a night. We're just not. He says, I really enjoyed the Storm Bane match as well as the FTR turn and Bandito's wild 60-second delayed vertical suplex spot. However, the Young Bucks return I did not want or need. And then he puts in brackets, they have go away Jericho heat now. And last year's EVP storyline was the worst. Not a bad show overall, but the length really killed it for me, though. And he says, more is more. All right, Dan the Mouth Lavransky. He says, yeah, it was long. And yeah, the main event was a mess. That was a stupid way to bring the Bucks back, but the rest of the show was pretty great, especially the 3-way with Omega, Ricochet, and Speedball. I feel like I should be reading this in Mouth's voice. The FTR turn was intriguing. I can't do that. Dan actually sounds better than that. Anyways, the FTR turn was intriguing, and Storm and Bane was good, but not as good as Storm and May last month. That was something special, though. That Storm and May match, that had so much build behind it. I feel like Megan Bay was a credible threat. And this is me talking, not Dan. Let's go back to Dan's comments here. He says, I have to give the show a yay. I need a lot more than a long show. Get used to it. And multi-run-in main event. Get used to it. For to give it a thumbs down or boo or whatever. Just be happy there wasn't any glass or spikes embedded in some guy's back at the end. Well, that is a bar to draw things by. You know, that is a bar to set, Dan. And I appreciate that comment. So, you know what? The man makes a good point. Our buddy Sal, or Sam Greco, depending on who you ask, gave a yay to the Kenny Omega and Mike Bailey and Ricochet match. He says he booed the ending, though, with Swerve and Moxley. Yeah, not a lot of people thrilled with that one. Whereas Kirk, though, said, yay, the ending was great. So Kirk Metzler actually loved the finish. That's just it. Different strokes for different folks. Andy Evans from our Legends and Champions show, which posts every Wednesday or Thursday for free on the McGuire on Wrestling /Celebrate Wrestling feed. He says a massive boo. A terrible pay-per-view, ran too long. Matches for the most were dull. Who cares anymore about the AEW title? The downward decline of AEW continues, and that's such a shame to say. Gee, Andy, tell us how you really feel. That's a little depressing. I mean, okay, so it wasn't the best show, but it wasn't WrestleMania 2000 bad. Just saying. God, if you haven't heard their review of WrestleMania 2000 yet, by the way, there's some very passionate opinions about that show. I did go back and watch some of WrestleMania 2000 afterwards, And I remember why I didn't see it originally, because I didn't get it on pay-per-view back in the day. There was a gap in my wrestling where I didn't watch anything on pay-per-view for a long time because, well, mostly I was broke and I was in college and I was trying to, get life going here. But going back and watching it, I remember watching it on like DVD or VHS or whatever. Yeah, not a great show. Not a great show. But at the same time, part of our history. An embarrassing part of our history. Excuse me. Normally, I'd edit out the drinking breaks here, the water breaks, but not today. You're getting it unedited and commercial-free, so there we go. Devin Axtman, who is usually a pretty pro AEW guy on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page, he had some interesting comments here. He says, I suppose overall boo due to the ending and the Temu Blackpool Combat Club keeping the title. The main event was an overbooked mess, proving that AEW is often a sports entertainment company with occasional great matches. You're just waiting for the run-ins. Alas, Bucks versus Hanger and Swerve will be fun. There were some awesome moments like the triple threat, Ospreay versus Knight match, and Storm versus Bane match. Also really enjoyed seeing Fletcher sign. He owes Briscoe a lot. They have great chemistry. Also, we don't need a 4.5-hour show. There it is again. The time of the show being a big issue for a lot of people. And I get it. I'm such a huge fan of less is more. I don't necessarily agree with the WWE approach of 4 matches over 4 hours. I think that's too much in the other direction. But I do believe that these AEW shows, if they topped out at like 7 matches, 3 to 3.5 hours, we'd be set. We would be set. You can have a little bit of promo package in there. You can have a little bit of extra long entrance for 1 or 2 people. Because I get it. AEW is match in, match out, match in, match out, and that's the way they do their show, and that's fine. But when you have 10 matches, when you have a show that goes 4 hours and 22 minutes, that's just too much. It's just too much. So on that note, we're not going to go too long with this show this week because, again, we're going commercial free and whatnot. But I do want to hear your feedback as always. So if you're not on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page yet, join it. It's free. Absolutely love to hear from you. You can also find me at McGuire Show and keep following the socials because you're going to get more details on the merch store getting expanded again here. A couple of t-shirts that are going to be up for about a month or 2 tops. We're going to get the pre-order done. We're going to ship them out. And that's going to be that. And then we'll do it again down the line here. But really appreciate your support. So much, in fact, that this is what I'm officially calling episode 99A. Because, again, we're giving you something special here. Commercial free. No gaga. All your content. And we want to keep it something special for episode 100. So I can tell you this right now. Episode 100 is going to be pretty fun. Pretty fun. Somebody, again, I've been wanting to get on this show for a long time. Somebody you may or may not expect. We've pulled out some great surprises for you in the past here. If you're new to the McGuire on Wrestling / Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed, go back in the archives. Check out some of the guests. Check out some of the interviews. We've had some great stories here, and frankly, I'm going to go ahead and say it. We get some great insight here that is often ahead of its time or pretty accurate. Pretty accurate. I'm not saying that I know it all either. I'm guessing like the rest of you on most of this stuff. But as we get close to WrestleMania, as we are now in the full swing of wrestling season, even though there is no real off season, we're going to have a special episode for you next week. So I look forward to talking to you then. That shuts her down for me today. Thank you for listening, either on the radio or online. Again, CelebrateWrestling.com. Please go there. And next week, get ready. Episode 100 officially drops right here. Till then, thanks for listening and letting me do what I do. Play safe. Drive safe. IBC.
They hurt. McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.
We break rules, we break checks, we break arms, we break legs, we break rookies, we break vets, we break refs for Breakfest. Business with the syndicate, we finish it, we limitless, talking any...